So I recorded this video a couple of weeks ago where I was trying to get into the head of where I thought Tony Khan was when in terms of shaping AEW and his image to be totally different than any other promotion that had come before it, to really revolutionize professional wrestling in a way that it could be number two and then also surpass and become the number one wrestling promotion in the world. Why he wasn't listening to the legends. Why was he doing things in a way that seemed to be going against the historical grain and the modern grain at the same time? It's a very controversial take, and I know I'm going to get dragged for it, but I thought it was essential because I'm the impartial Marshall, and a lot of people are dragging Tony Khan right now, kicking him while he's down. Everything's down. The ratings, attendance, even his talent. Morale, I'm sure, has taken a hit as well. So because of that, I thought that that would be an important video to make and talk about, because at this time, it's not very popular to talk nice about Tony Khan. So this is a little disclaimer that the video you are about to see paints Tony Khan in an interesting light. I am not going to say that I'm propping him up. I'm not kissing his ass. I'm simply trying to play devil's advocate at a time where he is not the most popular. And hey, there's a lot of things going on with AEW that I'm not quite a fan of. He has totally changed my hype as far as where I used to be with AEW to where I am now. I used to be tuning in every Wednesday excited. I still tune in every Wednesday, but that excitement has waned, I must say, and I must be honest. But he's also dealing with a lot of factors. I'm sure he's week to week booking now as opposed to long term booking, because all of his long term booking has probably gone to the wayside based on injuries and what have you. But I'm not here to make excuses. I'm not here to try to convince anybody to believe anything. I'm giving something that is very simple, an opinion. I am pro WWE. I am pro AEW because I am pro wrestling. And I see this a lot in the upcoming video that you are about to watch. So just thought I'd give you that little disclaimer. This was recorded quite a while ago, and I've held it for a long time because I just watch things get progressively worse as far as popular opinion and even as far as what's going on the television. But for the sake of conversation, I think I understand Tony Khan. Here it is. All right, this one's probably going to get me into some trouble, but I thought I should do this video. And you know what? I'm going to feel good after this because I've been holding off for this for a while, and I think it's really, really important, and I think it needs to be talked about. But before we get into that, this is Rob, the Wrestling Old Head, here in the portal of pro wrestling. You have just entered the vortex. I'm a wrestling fan of 36 years with an opinion on the current product, and this is a wrestling community safe space. And as I've said before, I am the impartial Marshall. This is nothing to do with bias. I'm not pro WWE. I'm not pro AEW. I am pro wrestling, and that's what it's all about. So I want to get into this topic that I've been thinking about for a long time in regards to Tony Khan. He is not the most popular, favored topic in pro wrestling right now. He is getting thrown under the bus, and probably rightfully so. There are not a lot of stellar things that you can say about the AEW product currently, and you can point them in a lot of directions. It could have been the way that he handled the situation with CM Punk and the Young Bucks. It could be the amount of injuries that they have currently going on, the lack of storytelling that's going on in the product. But I'm here to talk about that. And this is something I'm playing devil's advocate that I'm probably going to get dragged out for, but I'm here for it, and I'm here for the conversation, and I'm here for the debate. What if Tony Khan is trying to do something that no other wrestling promoter has ever done before? And that's by beating the machine, by beating the WWE, formerly just beating Vince McMahon, by not playing their game. Hear me out. I'm going to get deep on this, but hear me out. WWE's biggest competition to date was WCW. For 83 weeks, WCW had beaten the WWF at the time in the ratings, and it seemed like the pendulum had swung for the first time outside of the WWF. in that whole scenario, in my opinion, watching it live, and I was watching it live, I was watching it all break down. One of the things that I noticed personally was that the WCW, not putting out the blame on anybody else, because I got a lot of respect for Eric Bischoff, Kevin Sullivan, all the guys that were working in the back in the executive office and doing the booking at that time, they tried to beat the WWF at their own game. They tried to go the entertainment route. They tried to make Crash TV. And they even went as far as getting Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara. They tried everything to beat them at their own game, and that is not going to beat Vince and company. Now, Vince is no longer a part of the company. God damn it. He is name redacted. He is Error 404. He is no longer a part of the company. So this is maybe a different type of a mindset than even you probably couldn't do this mindset with Triple H. Who knows? But I'm saying this is an entertainment company. They are the sports entertainment leader, and they have always been the sports entertainment leader. Let's fast forward. Let's go to TNA. TNA tried to compete with the WWE at the time by going head-to-head on Monday nights. And what did they try to do? They tried to go the entertainment route as well. They tried to do a lot of backstage stuff. They tried to do the storylines that were episodic storylines, and they didn't have the budget. They didn't have the budget. You're not going to beat the WWE by doing WWE-esque programming. So let's tie that all around and get to current day and talk about Tony Khan. Maybe Tony Khan, throughout all his faults and mishaps in the last 5 years, has simply been trying to come up with an alternative and try to put people in positions without going the route of the WWE, without doing episodic television. Maybe it's tough for him because he sees Christian Cage and Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley and all of these former WWE stars and wants to put them in positions that are similar to where they came from, or maybe that are playing to their strengths, and playing to their strengths are just putting them in these storylines that are episodic or that are storyline driven, and that's just not his strong suit. And maybe what's happening right now is that Tony Khan is having a situation where he doesn't know how to control his company because he's trying to play to the wrestlers' strengths, and some of them only know the WWE way of doing things. I mean, case in point, Mercedes Moné. He hired her writer, and she is now writing storylines that are not coming off good, frankly, and less than stellar, if I must say. But maybe that's because it's not the way he should be doing things. Maybe he should be doing things a different way. Now, say what you will, and you guys can drag me for this. Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta, the Dark Order, all of those guys that came in from the independents that needed the training, that needed a certain sense of something to switch out. They were different. You know, they were very comedic and outlaw mud show-ish. But maybe that's what Tony Khan's vision was. Maybe I can get these guys to the spotlight, blow them up, and then we could be known as an alternative. And, you know, ECW did that very well. They took these guys that, for all intents and purposes, were not technically sound, were not crisp. Some of them were not charismatic. You would never see them in the ring doing 20-minute promos on WWF television or WCW television for that matter. But he found a way to work to their strengths, and they became an alternative. And they got a lot of popularity for that point. Not a ton, but they were the big three for a while. I mean, you had to respect ECW, even with their limited television availability and no pay-per-views at the time. You still had to give them the respect and call them the number three. And maybe that's what Tony Khan saw. He saw this gap in wrestling and said, you know, I'll fill the gap by doing everything that WWE isn't doing and accentuating all the things that WWE isn't doing. All of a sudden, Vince McMahon ends up getting booted out, and now Triple H is coming in, and Triple H is going, let's do all of these things that were gaps in WWE at the time. Let's add them to our episodic television. And now Tony Khan is in the fight for his life because he's going to have to try and fight the WWE without doing WWE-esque things. That's just my opinion. It's very controversial, I know. Drag me through the mud for this opinion. But in the age where everybody is beating up on Tony Khan and leaving him in droves and saying that it's trash and the product's not good and all of this stuff, I thought maybe for just this one video, I would present the opposite side of this argument and play devil's advocate and give him props for at least trying to do something that was different, trying to do something that didn't look like WWE Light. And I know he's probably looking like WWE Light right now, but he's trying not to. And he's got to work with a lot. I personally think he should cut the football, the soccer, and American football out and focus 100% on the product. Because if he's really passionate about professional wrestling, then he needs to be eat, sleeping, and breathing professional wrestling, and he shouldn't be worried about a 7 a.m. wake up call talking to Roger Goodell or somebody like that. He should be focused 100% on AEW and making it the right alternative and giving it the opportunity to be opposition, true opposition. And it just got me thinking, because there are these experts, there's guys like Conan and Jim Cornette and Eric Bischoff and Kevin Nash and all of these guys that have been in the business for years. And I'm like, why isn't he listening to these guys? These guys, they know their shit, they know their shit. Jim Cornette is like a historian, for God's sakes. And Brian Last, the same. I mean, I listened to Brian Last. The guy can spout off stuff from the 80s all the way up to current day without even like so much of blinking the eye, okay? And why isn't Tony Khan sitting there talking to these guys? And it got me thinking, maybe he's not talking to them because he doesn't want to fall for the same things that these other guys have fallen for. Every single person that has tried to go up against Vince and that machine has fallen. They've fallen on their shield. They've fallen on their sword. And maybe he doesn't want to do that. Maybe that's not the way he wants to do it. Maybe he wants to try and do something revolutionary and different. And maybe he's learning the hard way that grabbing a bunch of amateur, inexperienced, independent wrestlers and mixing them with former WWE legends is not working, because he's having to do WWE Light by default. I don't know. I didn't think this all the way through, but I thought I'd sit here and fall on my shield and fall on my sword and go, maybe there's something beneath all of this, just like he's, inept. He doesn't have the experience, and he's just not listening, and he's a billionaire that's not thinking right, and all the stuff that I've read. And I thought maybe I'd give my opinion on maybe something that's beneath the surface, and he's trying. And yes, it might not be working, but he's trying, right? And that's all that we can hope for. Again, I know I'm going to get dragged for this. I'm not pro AEW. I'm not pro WWE. I am pro professional wrestling. Big fan of both. I hope to see AEW thrive because I think competition is necessary. But that's just what I think. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. And I know it's not working, but do you think that Tony Khan is really trying to separate himself from the fallen promotions that have come before him and try not to go that same route? You guys let me know what you think. I thought it was something to talk about. Let me know what you think in the comments. Smash that like button. And hey, thank you for everybody that has liked. Thank you for everybody that has commented. We're going to grow this community, and we're going to grow this together. And I appreciate each and every one of you for making this wrestling old head smile. 36-year wrestling fan. And it's only going to get better from here. I'll see you soon, you guys. Thanks again.